Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all new year and an all new season of the Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, the official iRacing series brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC and proudly sponsored by the hardware manufacturer who can take you to the highest level of sim racing with their absolutely brilliant hardware. That's right, we are back for an all new season of racing here in our regular Porsche Cup series. However, it may be our regular series, but there's plenty of new things in store, and first up we have a double header of new items tonight because we are here in the US state of Florida for the Miami International Autodrome, a circuit only opened in 2022 and aimed at hosting a Formula 1 race on an annual basis. It is a circuit that has gradually expanded over the last 3 years to host a variety of racing series including Porsche Cup, and its core is a 19 corner layout which absolutely brings together extended straights, sweeping combinations of bends and very tight and technical sectors, and it's a perfect fit for our all-new Porsche Cup car because we are debuting today the Porsche 992.2 GT3 Cup car with the introduction of its all-new electronics package featuring both TCS, traction control system, and ABS anti-lock braking system. But it is still a gentleman's car and one that is going to prove very tantalisingly difficult to tackle. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in to another strength-filled race. We've moved to Saturdays as of this season, and that's where we're going to stay for the whole of this season. But don't worry, there'll be plenty of fresh blood on the grid, we should say, and therefore it's only going to make the racing even more intriguing and exciting week in, week out. You're catching all this race, of course, live from Circuit Side on YouTube at youtube.com. and search for none other than TX11TX, alternative Paul Walsh, and you'll have me in the commentary booth bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds week in, week out. Speaking of our schedule for tonight, in the 2045 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, strength of field top split race, well, in approximately what will be 3 minutes' time, we'll be making our way to the grid for our 13-lap feature event here at Miami, and what an event we have in store as our drivers are just getting their first qualifying laps on the board. But as they do, well, let's talk a little bit about the season schedule ahead, and I can promise you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a schedule we've been very much looking forward to. Because as we can see, we begin the journey today in the US of A on the 20th of December at the Miami International Autodrome. But from here, we then make our way every Saturday around the globe, and we head to Belgium in a week's time for the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. Then on the 3rd of January, we bring in the all-new calendar year in the globe at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and the risk of rain is there in Germany. Well, that's going to be a combination that will keep even the very best on their toes. Then we head to Brazil to the Autodrome of Jose Carlos Pache, with rounds 5 and 6, or weeks 5 and 6, seeing us complete the first half of the season with a bang. The circuit does 24 Hours Le Mans and Road Atlanta. But we don't stop there. After the rollercoaster ride of the US of A, we make way to Italy for a doubleheader, beginning at Monza in week 7, and then head into Imola in week number 8. But we then make our way back to the US of A for a doubleheader at Daytona and Sebring, and then we bring things to a close in Germany at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg, followed up by the all-new circuit on iRacing. Much like our season opening circuit at Miami, we end on an all-new circuit for this season, and that's the Adelaide Street Circuit in week 12 of 12 on the 7th of March. So every Saturday this racing will occur, and you can expect some absolutely titanic battles from the top split. But in terms of our host circuit for today, of course, it is none other than the Miami International Autodrome's Grand Prix layout. 3.36 miles in length or 5.4 kilometres, depending on your preference of units, but one thing that stays the same is the number of turns, 19 in totality, and a whole mixture of corner combinations around here. It's a street circuit, there's very little runoff area other than designated points, including the run through turns 4 through to 8, and also the runoff area at turn number 17. But as the walls loom thick and fast, as does the risk versus reward of going for a move, and you've got to know when to attack. And the long stretches of straights around here, including the run from turn 8 to 11, and also the run from 16 to 17, where we can expect mojo overtakes if nobody's daring to be brave on the brakes. But with that, a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing. Setup-wise, this is the open setup variant of the series. So our drivers bring a setup of their choosing to each and every week of racing, and when we do head to the grid, it will be set via the closed qualifying session that's currently ongoing. The race commencing by a standing start, as is the tradition of Porsche Cup racing. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points, and should they get to 25, they will be disqualified. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way to circuit side then and see how all our drivers are lining up so far. And well, we've got a very impressive grid here today in terms of strength of field, as Thomas Ronhaar there decides to go straight on. But to be fair, looking incredibly quick, it must be said. Well, 1 minute 54.386, meaning it's an absolute monster lap he's been able to deliver. And, well, he's currently the highest rated driver here at 11,500 I rating approximately. And the strength of field here today for our season opening strength of field race is 5,251. It's not quite the highest we've seen over the recent moments of hosting these broadcasts, albeit we have headed upwards of 5,600. However, it is one of our highest. And we've got plenty of huge names on the grid today, including Liam McNeely, also Deagen Fairclough, the Formula 4 racer, who is continuing to impress in British Formula 4, and I do believe trying to make inroads into GB3 Formula racing. We also do have here sim racing stars, including Tobias Olsen. Also, we do have none other than Diogo Almeida, who's back on the grid once again. You name it, they're here. This really is a celebrity A-list of Porsche Cup racers, and with the all-new Porsche Cup car as well. I can tell you one thing, this is a car that many were worried about when we were saying goodbye to the 992.1. However, now that this car has arrived on the service, whilst there are some doubters out there and some who are not happy with it, because of course some do prefer the purest approach, not having the electronics, this has opened up a whole new in-tray of drivers, because many may have been hesitant to drive this car given the lack of electronics. However, now with the electronics, it's made it a little bit more forgiving, but it has not made it any easier to drive. And that's the biggest thing that's really come about when you go to the official iRacing Porsche Cup Discord. You'll see the debate on there in terms of how the fixed setup should be run to make the car difficult but approachable, but also the fact having traction control and ABS makes it a lot harder to get the most out of the car, because you don't want the electronics intervening when you're trying to push it to the maximum. But as our drivers come towards the end of their qualifying session, with only 30 seconds left to go, we see Casper Tunstedt here. He's the last one to be on a valid flying lap. And right now, the number 24 driver here in what is this 24 car split. Well, he's going to make his way towards the timeline there. And what's he going to be able to do as he crosses the timeline? And it is going to be for him, well, it's a 1 minute 57.114. It doesn't move him any higher. But as we do see Diogo Almeida make his way towards the line, he won't be on a valid lap here. He'll just be calling on down. And, well, that's good, ladies and gentlemen, because we need a little bit of a cool down with qualifying coming to a close. But we do make our way onto the grid. And as quick as that, qualifying is complete. And it is time now for us to get ready to go racing here in Miami. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they all line up then for our first strength of field race of the 2026 Season 1 campaign. It's Abel Torres who takes pole position there from Spain ahead of the Briton of Deagen Fairclough, and the gap between the two of them, 69 thousandths in the end. Quite a nice gap if you don't mind me saying. Then we have in third place none other than Tobias Olsen for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing ahead of Thomas Ronhaar, with the Dutchman starting fourth. We have Liam McNeely beginning the day in fifth place there, the Briton ahead of Alex Keon, 07 Racing driver starting sixth. Then it's going to be none other than Linus Donovan who starts seventh for Arctic Sim Sports by a draw. And then we have alongside him fellow Dane of none other there than Sebastian Bach. It's Oscar Berntsen, the smiling Swede, who starts in ninth for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing ahead of Leandro Lazendorf. The Brazilian rounds off your top 10. In 11th place, it is going to be Elias Finoli for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing. And in 12th, Davidas Larionis from SRB Motorsport. We have Hunter Lawrence starting 13th from the US of A ahead of the Scotsman of Conor Murray. And then completing your 8th row of the grid, it's Aaron Jones and none other than Yannick van der Zande. On row at number 9, we're going to have Diogo Almeida, the Portuguese driver, just ahead of Antti Corsaro. And then completing your top 20, it is going to be Mitchell Welker and Salvatore Lam. Then, outside of the top 20, we've still got a couple more rows to go. We have Casper Tunstedt starting 21st ahead of Laszlo Szabo. And then behind the Hungarian on the final row of the grid, it's Thomas Engels, the GT Unit.de driver, ahead of the Welshman Matt Webb, who completes your 24-car starting field. So that's how they all line up. And we've only 20 seconds to go before the lights start to go on. All drivers right now, we're making sure they've got the setups correct. They've got the right amount of fuel in the car. Nobody wants to make a fool of themselves here in the opening strength of field race of the season. There's no doubt about it. And right now, everything's on the line. But without further ado, here come the lights. So it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights and away we go. And all new season of racers, they roar away down towards turn 1. It's a 90-degree right-hander, and Abel Torres is going to get there first. But as they make their way into the braking zone, Deagen Fairclough, meanwhile, immediately tucks in and defends second. Tobias Olsen, Thomas Ronhaar tucking in behind, as the whole field right now tiptoes its way for the opening few corners. A big slide there for Oscar Berntsen, who in the end falls all the way down to 11th place, but the damage may not be done yet. And as they make their way through the sweeping bend and up towards turn 5, there's even more to come here as Larionis right now trying to go around the outside in a 3-wide configuration here. here, and he is going to get it done. Is Laureanis, that's brave on cold tyres, but he's got the confidence there, as Liam McNeely, meanwhile, finds himself an absolute back and forth fight with Linus Donovan. Donovan trying to go around the outside here. There's two ways to skin turn number 8. One's very tight on the inside, the other's very far on the outside, as that's a big side there from Donovan. He survives it, however, and they make the way down towards turn number 11. But as they power the way onwards here, right now, these drivers still fight each other. Donovan and Keon and Buck are all getting involved with each other. Sebastian Buck, who started 8th, still there, but I think he eyes up 2 places here as he makes way into that braking zone. Going defensive to the wall is none other than Keon, and as they make the way into that braking zone, well, the 3 become a 2. It's still too wide there between Donovan and Keon, and in the end, right now, it's going to be Linus Donovan gets ahead. Meanwhile, further back, we do still have Laureanis and Burnson fighting each other as they make the way all the way through the sweeping right-hander at turn of 12, and they skip to the wall, and Burnson, right, as fighting hard as Laureanis is given an elbow. Oh, he has to cut the corner there. There's no way through, and in the end, they swap the places around. I don't know how they don't make contact, but there's contact further back. Multiple cars sideways, but in the end, they all get pointed in the right direction. Not quite sure what's at the heart of that, but somehow they've been able to survive it all. Well done to everybody involved. That could have been tears, but in the end, it's absolute testament to their ability as Casper Tunstead and Thomas Engels here right at the back of the field fight each other, and Laszlo Szabo, meanwhile, side by side as they make the way down the back stretch. But they all fan out here. The leaders, meanwhile, have already cleared the final set of quarters. They're on to another lap, but the fighting behind here right now is absolutely reaching the precipice as Conor Murray and Hunter Lawrence are going side by side under braking. That's 3 wide under braking, but in the end, it's deceptive 3 wide into 2, and then very quickly it might emerge into 1 as everyone's trying to get the power down as quickly as they can. But after 1 lap, it's Abel Torres who leads. The Spaniards still ahead of Deagen Fairclough, 2nd. Then we have Tobias Olsen in 3rd. Thomas Ronhaar is 4th, ahead of Liam McNeely, who hops onto 2 wheels there. Too much apex curve at turn number 2, but he'll get away with it this time. Then we have Linus Donovan in 6th, ahead of Alex Keon in 7th, with Sebastian Bach in 8th, ahead of Elias Finoli, and Leandro Lazendorf completes the top 10. But we've had a bit of drama further back at turn number 1. I believe Hunter Lawrence and Thomas Engels have been involved in a bit of contact, and so has Casper Tunstead. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, but there has been some drama, and we're not quite sure what's been at the core of it. But right now, from their drama to a drama that's potentially building here, we look back to your leaders as they make the way past us. Now, if you are noticing that your broadcast is staggering along a little bit, don't adjust your TV set. That's on our end, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, with the all-new circuit and all its details, it is taxing our broadcasting PC a little bit. It is getting to its age, so therefore don't worry too much about that, but worry about the fact that Tobias Olsen here is going to try and go around the outside of Deagen Fairclough. Fairclough goes all in there for the move on Abel Torres. So in the end, what was a defence becomes an offence here, and they do say the best defence is a good offence. And well, Tobias Olsen right now breaks down the defence of Deagen Fairclough, or does he? As they make the way all the way to the wall, and it's immediately single file here as they now come over the crest of 14 into 15 they come, and out of 16. And right now these drivers absolutely breathing down each other's necks as we jump on board here with Liam McNeely. So down the back straight he goes, and here everyone right now in the draft. And I do believe a lot of drivers running negative rear wing on these cars at the highest level to get as much top speed as they can down these back straights. It does make the car very unstable through the corners, but if you can conquer the instability, you gain massively on these straights and in the toe especially. So right now we are seeing everybody here pushing each other to the absolute limit as they make the way on out. And a new car, and everyone wants to prove themselves the king or queen of it, and it's absolutely brilliant to see, because right now our top 8 are separated by only 3 seconds in total, if that, and I think there's more to come here as they make the way on to another tour of the circuit. However, it's not to exclude what's going on outside the top 8, or indeed the top 10, as Matt Webb, the Welshman, who started 24th, has made his way all the way to 14th place. Right now, he's doing a brilliant job here as Matt, just carving his way through the field and being the innocent man who's just picking his way past them one by one. Sometimes that's the way you've got to race, to be fair. There's something to be said about consistency and staying out of trouble, and that's exactly what we're seeing Webb doing the number 16, but he does have Oscar Burnson putting pressure on him, and Burnson right now is not an easy driver to shake off. I can tell you that based on what we saw in 2025. Mitchell Welker, meanwhile, he's also made some great progress from 19th to 18th, matching his door number, but he now finds Lan right in front of him. He's riding the rear of the Golf liveried machine, and indeed that's harking back to the year of the 70s through to the 80s of Porsche racing liveries as they make the way through the long left-hander at turn number 8. My goodness, that corner never seems to end, and then it suddenly does, and on the exit they find a big tyre barrier. Conor Murray's also on the back of this right now as they make the way up towards the next corner sequence. But all these drivers continuing to pressure each other, as meanwhile we do see a bit of a change here as Alex Keon and Sebastian Bach go side by side in towards turn number 11, and in the end, well, Bach's going to get through, but Keon giving the elbow out there in the number 4, and I can imagine the Italian driver's not going to be too happy about that, but Sebastian Bach wanted the move, and well, he's earned it. Through the sweeping they go of the technical sequence of turns 12 through to 15, and out to 16 they'll emerge, and Bach right now, well, gets the power down, Brilliant exit there, and that's going to keep you nice and safe on this long run down, or is it? Because the gap is 4 tenths, and it does start to expand a little bit before it will gradually contract. But that goes to show you how the fact you get a good exit out of that corner. And if you're running similar setups, even with the draft, you are going to be able to outrun the guy behind you, at least to be able to be safe into that braking zone. And Kale might consider going for a late dive up the inside, but he's going to need to be a lot closer than that. He'll need to be within 2 tenths if he wants to dare it. But through turns 17, 18, 19 they come. No more change between them at the moment as they make the way on to the next lap. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Ebel Torres still ahead of Fairclough, with then none other than Olsen, McNeely and Ronhaar together. These drivers right now really just keeping each other honest, but hopping over those curves as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see the top 8 that was really grouped together gradually spread out here, as we will see our drivers now start to see who's got the best pace over the race distance, rather than just simply over a single lap. There's tyre degradation to consider here, plus also what is stamina of these drivers. This is a sprint race. It's only going to be approximately 25 minutes in length when you consider the laps. However, the races at these levels take a lot out of drivers, particularly when they're side by side like this, as that's Webb and Jones. Webb's trying to go for 13. Can he get this done here? Aaron Jones is going to try and hold on as well. It's side by side through the corner they go. Jones is still there, and the 23 driver holds on for now. Webb is pushing hard, but Aaron Jones says no, can do. But as they roar the way up towards turn number 11, I don't think Webb is going to give up his can-do attitude here as they make the way onwards. We ride on the dashboard here of Matt Webb, and Webb right now is absolutely pushing this the most as he looks around the outside. He's going to go for it, and well, Aaron Jones goes defence on the inside. That's the great thing about turn 11. You can defend it on the inside, but the problem is you've then got to clear the corner in time for turn number 12, and he does so. But here comes Oscar Bernson, who says, can I get involved please? And right now I think Webb's probably saying under his visor, no Oscar, go away, I don't want you here. And Oscar's going to be saying, I wasn't asking, Matt. But as they come through 16, well, he goes a little bit deep there, does Webb. He just about avoids the exit wall. Brilliant car control from him, and that means they stay as they were. But Webb is under a lot of pressure. In fact, look at the gap to Jones. It's 8 tenths here. Webb is going to be very vulnerable. He immediately pulls over as they go underneath the tree glades, and as they roar the way down, they're halfway down the straight right now, and we're heading towards that braking zone here. It's going to be a move around the outside from Bernson, but can he get it done on the brakes? Will Webb go for it here? He does try and defend on the inside, late on the brakes. He's going to lean a lot into the ABS. They both just about clear each other. They're side by side coming out the corner. Then you do have the Corsaro, Lon, Velka and Murray battle that's coming up behind them. Bernson still here as they make their way 2 wide through turn number 19, and Oscar Bernson's on the inside. Then turn 1 onto lap 5 they go, but it's not over yet as Webb is still trying to force this every step of the way, and well, Webb will finally get it done. Well, in fact, Bernson will finally get it done, but Webb is still there with him right now. I think he's going to be saying, okay, Oscar, you've got it done, now get a move on, otherwise I'm coming back at this immediately. As meanwhile, we look to Lan, Corsaro, Velka and Murray. There's fighting everywhere you look today. It's absolutely brilliant. We couldn't ask for anything more than this, and all these drivers right now absolutely glued to each other as they come on around. But you can see here, Velka right now on the inside of Murray. Conor Murray thought he got it done, and Velka now trying to go back past him. He does, but into turn number 8, will he get it stopped? A bit of a slide on the rear axle there for Mitchell Welker. That goes to show you the fact he's trying to essentially break into a corner where he's got to turn the steering wheel, and as he's braking, the rear of the car's lifting up and the rear tyres are losing traction because he's applying more steering lock than what the car can handle. Such as how Mitchell Welker's having to balance this, and he's absolutely having to dig in as much as he can, as that's a big brush to the wall there. That, I think, was none other than, I think it was Salvatore Lan who made contact with the wall, and well, thankfully gets away with it, as meanwhile Mitchell Welker here under pressure trying to make a move on the 17 of Anthony Corsaro, and then he's going to get it done there, and Corsaro now comes back at him again. Goodness me, that sequence of turns 11 through to 12 and 13, forcing fights every step of the way. Is there contact between the two of them? And Corsaro's hit to the wall there. Oh no, that's not good at all, and that's straight into the back of him. It goes none other than Anthony Corsaro, and all's there Lazo Zabo, and well, in the end it all goes wrong, and we're big knock there for several drivers. Hunter Lawrence getting caught up in that as well. That was Hunter Lawrence who went into the back of Anthony Corsaro. I did say Anthony Corsaro hit himself there, I do apologise, but goodness me, what a nasty shunt there. And we have had to have Thomas Engels have to make his way to the pits, and the same for Corsaro. They've both had to tow due to damage they've picked up, but I can assure you in the end that was close racing there. But that's what happens when you go beyond close racing, even by a millimetre, and in the end push comes to shove, somebody's got to give way, and when two drivers don't, it is all about who's on that inside line. And unfortunately there it was a misery for Anthony Corsaro, and well, Hunter Lawrence and Thomas Engels get caught up in the instant by just not seeing it in time. We'll try try and get a replay of that when we can. In fact, we might be able to get a replay of some moments from earlier in the race, and we go all the way back to lap number 1. This is what happened to Casper Tunstead at the start of the race. This was towards the end of it, just before he got into lap number 2, fighting side by side here with, oh, he got the power down. It went wrong out of turn number 18. So Tunstead made his way to the wall there. And then on lap number 2, we had this for Hunter Lawrence and Thomas Engels. This was into turn 1. We did have a couple of drives go deep here when I looked out my commentary booth window. Well, what exactly happened? And in the end, oh, it was a bit of a mistake there. That was Hunter Lawrence going around, and everyone had to react. And Thomas Engels, in solidarity there, did his own spin. I believe that was just simply because he tried to slow the car too quickly, but he did manage to avoid the contact. So well done to the pair of them. We had this for Yannick van der Zande only moments later. This was up at turn number 8 on lap number 2. What exactly went wrong for Van der Zande? This was, oh, a little bit of a rub there. Everyone got it close. Number 15 came loose. Oh, that's a disaster. But that was number 15, the Salvatore Lahn, making contact. And well, that's going to be a very tricky one to pull apart if that does get reported to the iRacing stewarding team, because who do you say is at fault and all that? Meanwhile, we also then did have this, of course, and only moments later on lap number 5. And this was Antti Kossara into the wall. And then suddenly, Hunter Lawrence, 3-2-1, comes into the scene the instant, as does Thomas Engels, and explains their story. So back to your live racing we come, ladies and gentlemen. And well, as more racing comes on, we have got plenty more in the tank. And in fact, we've had a change of your top 5. We've had Abel Torres drop all the way down the order. What exactly's happened to him? That's not part of the script here in terms of what we were seeing. And in fact, Tobias Olsen is all the way back at Liam McNeely, and Torres is all the way down in 5th place right now. I do wonder what's happened there, whether there's been a mistake, a slowdown, or something else entirely. But we did have Deagen Fairclough make the move for the lead. This is how that was made. So this was the open wheel driver in real life, trying to make a move in a Porsche Cup car in the simulator. Down the back straight he went on lap number 5. It was a slipstream assisted pass. Looked up the inside here, and I don't think Torres was going to fight this one too hard. No, he just let it go, so Fairclough made his way up the inside, as meanwhile there's still the fight between McNeely and Olsen behind. But then this happened on lap number 6. This was Tobias Olsen at passing Torres. Torres made his way out the corner, and by looks of things picked up a slowdown from what I'm hearing in my ear. Through turns 14 and 15, he had to serve the slowdown, and that's why he gave up the places there. So we thought it was a slowdown. It was, and that confirms that your race leader right now is leading for some time, fell to 2nd, and then very quickly has found himself falling down to 4th. But he has found his way back past Liam McNeely over the course of the replay footage we've just gone through. We won't be able to get a replay of that immediately, as Tobias Olsen there goes very deep at turn number 11. They're starting to make mistakes, the leaders now, and this is the consistency part that's going to start to become a bit of pressure, because everyone at this point in time, as the sun gradually sets here in the US state of Florida, well, everyone right now, tired arms, tired legs, and tyres are definitely feeling a bit too much heat. Oh my goodness, that was very close there, as that was Liam Donovan versus Liam McNeely. And hold up a second, that's the car that's quote-unquote crabbing, or where the suspension's not pointing straight. Liam McNeely is struggling to keep that car pointing in a straight line in the white and green machine. I think he's had a knock with the wall recently, McNeely, because that car does not look stable at all. I don't know how he's managed to get pointing straight on the braking, but you can see that the car's leaning to the right under braking, but it's pulling to the left on the straight. That's suspension damage where he's hit a wall, and as they make the way onwards, well, right now Liam McNeely definitely struggling. If he can get this to the end of the race, that's going to be incredible in itself. If he can hold on to a top 10 finish, that is going to be a huge achievement, as the new fastest lap of the race goes to your 2nd place man, who right now, I think he's been saving it all up. And Thomas Ronhaar, the number 1 driver here today. Door numbers based on iRacing, of course. The highest iRacing driver has the highest door number in terms of relative position. So that's number 1 for Thomas Ronhaar. The lowest one here, of course, being none other than your 22nd place runner, Casper Tunstead, at this time. And those are the higher door numbers. They are the ones who've got the most iRacing to lose, where those with the lowest door numbers have the most to gain. But as they come on through right now, we've got some great battles going on. And well, more to come before this is all said and done as we head on to lap number 8. And Tobias Olsen and Abel Torres are not too far behind our leaders, as here they are, but it is Olsen who's holding on right now as the sun continues to go down, as we see it there in the rear of the picture. Meanwhile, we do look to Matt Webb, who's on a charge here versus Salvatore Lahn, as he goes up the inside here. Webb going all in for the move. That's a little bit of a bravery test there from Matt Webb, and then Salvatore Lahn does hold on, but I think Webb came in quite aggressively for that one, and I would imagine that Lahn's not going to be too impressed about that, because I could have almost seen both of them in the wall there if Webb had not got the car stopped in time. It was a small tap. However, a very risky tap at that when you come in at such an angle into turn number 8, but they get away with it that time, and Webb immediately goes in again. So right now, Matt Webb says once is not enough, twice will do it. Perhaps thrice if he needs to. Makes contact there with Alarm, but he does get the move done, but it is a little bit ham-fisted, that one. But the 16 driver here, what he's definitely shown us, he is committed to making moves. Oh my good lord, he grazes the wall there, coming through turn number 13 into 14 and 15. Webb right now is not slowing down whatsoever. He is absolutely hounding his way around the circuit, and right now the Welshman is on a charge in the number 16. But how much further can he go? Back to the front of the field, your top two are starting to pull away from the rest as they go on to lap number 9. We do say hello to a number of you in the YouTube chat, by the way, including none other than PBM77, and we also do say hello there to Nick DeBeck, and also there to AZ5480. Good to have you all with us, and also to Fabian MHD, regular long-time participant in the Strength of Field races for the Porsche Cup in 2025, and we hope to see him back on the grid in the near future. But glad to have so many of you tuning in as of tonight, and well, if you haven't said hello, but you're sat there right now with a keyboard, don't be shy, feel free to say hi, because the only biting you'll see today is biting on those brake discs, those carbon ceramic brake discs, and trying to avoid going into the ABS. But right now, Fairclough and Ronhaar absolutely locking horns here as we ride on board the front bumper of your number 1 driver, chasing down Fairclough. But it's one thing to catch, it's another thing to pass, the late great Murray Walker once said. And as they make the way in towards turn 11, Ronhaar right now looking around the outside, Fairclough thinking one way then the other. In fact, Ronhaar's got the overspeed here, he's going to cut to the inside, and well, I think he's caught out his fellow racer just with a nick of time here as they make the one to the brakes. The Briton right now being passed by the Dutchman, but he goes a bit deep, bounced off the suspension there, and well, Ronhaar does defend to the inside. And through that corner they go, and both the black machines here, and we're through into the very tight and twisty turn 14 and 15 complex. And well, Thomas Ronhaar does take lead this race, and we do have a yellow flag there for Tobias Olsen. That's a slowdown for track limits at the chicane, and he's going to lose that third place to Abel Torres, surely, as Torres will gradually outpace him here, albeit little by little. Olsen right now is trying to feather the throttle here to lose as little time as possible as they make the way down the stretch. The problem with Olsen doing that is, yes, he will lose less time in theory, but if he doesn't burn that slow down by the time he gets this braking zone, he's going to have to burn it even more when he comes out of it. But he's just judged it about right there, has Olsen, so he falls behind Torres, but he doesn't fall out of the draft. That was the tactic he wanted to deploy, and he does it perfectly. And indeed, a lot of drivers, if they can, they will try to cheat the system a little bit, but that's how the very best become the best. They know all the exploits, whether it be in real life or in sim racing, I can tell you that. But meanwhile, as we come back to the battle between Aaron Jones and Oscar Bernson, they fight over 13th. And right now, Bernson all over the back of Jones, and Jones has proven himself to be a very capable defender as Bernson takes way too much runoff area there. He cuts turn number 19, and he picks up a slowdown for it, so Jones is safe. And Jones is doing a very good job there at getting into the head of Oscar Bernson and making himself nice and wide. And that apex at turn number 19 has caught out a lot of drivers since the arrival of Miami on the simulator. We have had several drivers talking about the track limits there, and they're discovering the fact that you can cut it, but you cut it too much and you'll be hit with a big slowdown penalty. Further back to 17th place, we've got Mitchell Welker and Connor Murray still fighting each other. This battle's been going on since the start of the race, albeit we're not complaining as we jump on board the dashboard here of Connor Murray, and as they make the way in towards turn number 8, well, good switchback here from Murray. He might be able to get this move done by the time they get to the apex point at turn number 8. Yes, he will. Welker's got the right to be out there on the outside. They'll both get the power down now, so Welker's still trying to push this. This is now all going to be about commitment into turn 11 and who's got the least amount of drag on the car. Side by side through the kinks they go, 9, 10, and now it's about the braking zone here as they come through the sweeping left-hander. Murray's on the inside, Welker on the outside here, and Murray in the end, a bit of contact between the two of them, just a small tap, albeit the best part of 160 miles an hour. It's not a small tap, but through that left-hander they go. Welker and Murray still side by side here, and they're coming up towards 13 for the long right-hander at turn number 12. I think Welker's going to get back ahead for a moment, but then Murray says, right, I'm putting my nose in, I'm going to go all in here, and in the end, no, there's contact between the two of them, and well, Welker would argue that Murray didn't give him the space to operate. I think Murray would argue, well, Welker should have backed out there. It's not a too-wide situation. It is a slowdown there for Welker, but I can imagine that's going to be a bit of a debate between the two drivers as they drag race their way down the back straight, and right now Mitchell Welker is not backing off of this. I think he's got a point to prove to Murray, albeit he's going to have a point to prove when he gets a black flag if he doesn't get that slowdown off of him soon. But these two right now got their elbows out here as they head into turn number 17, but in the end, Mitchell Welker still fights it, but he does believe that slowdown enough in the end to let it go. So close fighting between the two of them. And it's not over yet, as in fact Velcam burn that slowdown. It's immediately back on the attack. You've got to give them credit here. They are fighting each other hard, and both drivers right now fighting for what may be 17th place. But to them, this is for a win in their minds and some huge I-rated points. But Murray holding on for now. An absolute brilliant battle back and forth. And from them, we look back to your leaders, because Ronhaar and Fairclough, they're still leading, these two. And they are 2 seconds clear of the fight for third. That has now become a solo effort in third. Abel Torres has run away up front of Elias Olsen. Olsen is 1.2 seconds back, and Olsen actually has Linus Donovan closing on him. Donovan has very gradually been carving his way up into the pursuit of fourth place, but right now your top five has definitely branched out a little bit, and that could be for a number of reasons. It may be that drivers now finding the limit of what the car is available to do if they've worn the tyres down, or it may be simply that some drivers have got better long distance pace as a driver compared to their rivals. There's all those question marks, but here's a question mark as well. Bernson versus Jones. Well, we've seen Jones defending versus Bernson several times over the last 3 or 4 laps, and he's going to try and do it again here in the fight for 13th place. Bernson on the inside here into 12. We've seen this whole switchback sequence between several drivers, but Jones is not able to stay with him there into 13 and 14 in terms of being side by side, but I think that's tactical there. He may have given it up. Oh, that's Liam McNeely into the wall. McNeely was in the damaged car with the heavily damaged suspension. He's gone around. Oh my good lord, and in the end, well, Mitchell Welker and Conor Murray avoid the way of Liam McNeely, but McNeely's race goes from good to bad to nightmare. And well, with that, we come back to leaders, because here we go, ladies and gentlemen, onto the penultimate lap. And Ronhaar and Fairclough right now are literally glued nose to tail here in the number 1 and the number 6 respectively. And they're absolutely pushing each other along, as we do say hello there to Dan Shawley and also to Max Enstrom. Good evening to you guys, or good day to you guys, depending on where you are in the world, and I hope you're doing well. And as we do see our drivers make the way up here into turns 4 through to 8, right now Ronhaar and Fairclough, they're so close at this point, and understandably Deagen, I mean, they're no strangers, these two, to how you can closely race each other. And well, Deagen Fairclough, of course, absolutely dominating. I believe it was GB3 this year. We absolutely ran away with the championship in real life. I might be wrong on that, don't quote me on it, but I know whatever he raced in this year, he was absolutely charging off into distance. But right now he's not been able to charge off with this one, as Ronhaar has been able to keep him pinned in second. However, this could all be for the final lap of the race. At this point, when you're at this level, it's about small differences. It's the micrometers of distance between these two, and it's where the margins truly do become marginal between victory and second. And it's all going to come down to who makes a mistake and who has identified where the other is weaker, because they'll both be maximising their strengths and minimising their weaknesses, but somebody somewhere's got to make an error. And you can see the speed as we ride on board here with Fairclough, the way he just carries that momentum, the both do, but on board it becomes so much more visceral inside this car when you have 514 brake horsepower being chucked around in the car that weighs just over a ton. And right now this car does not have that much aero on it, to be fair. It's not quite like a GT3 car where there's a lot more aero packaging on it. It does have that big rear wing, but he's absolutely sliding the car through the streets of Miami and just showing what you can do around the Hard Rock Stadium. But here we go then, through turn 17. It's going to be a flat out run all the way to the timeline, and one more lap between these two and victory. But who is going to be the winner? That we're about to find out, as here we go, lap 13 of 13. The white flag is out. It's Ronhaar who leads ahead of Fairclough, and then we have Torres in third place with Olsen and Donovan closing gradually. Further back, we have Sebastian Buck fighting with Elias Finoli. These two, they have not fought each other in a long time, but it's good to see them both back on the same screen. And Buck's going defensive immediately, as meanwhile, Finoli looking around the outside. In fact, I should say Sebastian Bach, not Back, to pronounce it properly as per the linguistics. And as they come through 2 into 3, right now Finoli is looking all over the back of him like a bad rash. But the problem is that right now Bark is doing everything right. He's putting himself right in the spot where he can make sure that Finoni's not able to make the move. And Elias Finoni knows this. He has raced against this man several times. We saw it in 2025, and Bark typically had the upper hand in the end. He just knew where to make sure the pressure could not be made into an overtake. But has Finoni found something new with the Porsche 992.2 Cup car? That's the question, because if he hasn't, a newcomer will join this battle shortly, and it's Diogo Almeida, who started 17th, is up in 9th, and right now is eyeing this up. But as they come down towards turn number 11, it's such a long run here. Indeed, it goes on forever. They hit in the toe 175 miles an hour, depending on the setup of the car. But right now, well, Buck and Finale together, but it's going to be Sebastian Buck who defends it from them then as he parks in the apex. And Ferrari finds himself facing a wall full of Porsche. We come back to leaders, and that's a cheeky move into turn 16. There's contact between the two of them, and Deagen Fairclough in the end went for it, but it didn't quite come together, and Ronhaar held on, but that was very close between the pair, and Thomas Ronhaar, I think, is going to do everything now he can just to run away here, but Fairclough's not done yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the number 6 look for a dive up the inside here. He'll probably turn up the ABS slightly if he can and go all in. Ronhaar goes defensive. Fairclough dives into the inside. They both know each other very well here, and as they make the way out of the last couple of corners, it's now we flat out here. Surely this is Ronhaar's to lose at this point. Through 18 into 19 as the checker flag waves. Thomas Ronhaar will take victory here at Miami by 3 tenths over Deagen Fairclough, and then it will be Abel Torres who completes your top 3 ahead of Tobias Olsen, with Linus Donovan rounding off the top 5 ahead of Alex Keon, who finishes in 6th place there, a lonely 6th, but well clear of Sebastian Bach, who with Anais Fanoli and Diogo Almeida coming through to 9th, and then we have Leandro Lazendorf who completes your top 10 ahead of Davidas Loriones, who holds on to best of the rest position in 11th of Oscar Bernson, Aaron Jones, and Matt Webb in the end fought hard, but 14th was the best he could manage with a personal best on the final lap. Connor Murray and takes 15th place ahead of Mitchell Elker, and then we will have Salvatore Lahn parking up in 17th ahead of Hunter Lawrence, with Yannick van der Zande in 19th place ahead of Liam McNeely. In a very heavily damaged car, still comes home in 20th. Well done to him. It's not the race he wanted. He did survive it in the end, and then we'll have Lazo Zabo in the end coming home in 21st place, and we've had 2 retirements, but otherwise everyone else is going to finish on the lead lap, which is a treat to see. And Casper Tunstead right now in a very wounded number 24. He will gradually make his way down towards the finish line. But we need to take a look back at what happened right at the end there between Ronhaar and Fairclough and see how exactly Fairclough got in a position to try and make that move. And here is a replay to explain, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Thomas Ronhaar and Deagen Fairclough as they made the way into turn number 11. So Fairclough was chasing at this point, but how exactly did Fairclough decide to go for the move into 16? Was it just a dive because he didn't think there was any other opportunity, or was there an error here? So through into 14, and in the end, well, Fairclough was very quick through there, and in fact, Ronhaar, ooh, goodness me, well, very interesting there. I think Ronhaar might have had a poor run through 15, and that opened up the door, and Fairclough in the end went for it, but then realised too late it wasn't perhaps going to work there. Contact was made, but Ronhaar was allowed to retake the lead position, so they got away with it, and then subsequently the rest was history. And what you'll see here as we ride on board looking back from Ronhaar, he knew Fairclough would go for the long dive under the ABS into turn 17. He just put the car in the middle of the road and said, you're not going to find a way through. So I think in the end, both drivers, great respect shown between each other, but in the end, Thomas Ronhaar, with that contact between the two of them, it was assumed he was going to win unless he made an error at turn 17, and that's how it concluded, ladies and gentlemen. So back to your live pictures we go. A great race all around, and well, let's take a look at those provisional results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. So after an absolutely lightning fast 13 laps of racing here at the Miami International Autodrome, making its debut on iRacing for the 2026 Season 1 official series, including the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. In our Week 1 strength of field race, Thomas Ronhaar took victory in the end in the number 1, defending his right to be the number 1 driver on this grid. The Dutchman taking victory by 3 tenths over the Briton of Deagen Fairclough. Abel Torres took 3rd place. In the end, not quite the way he wanted it to go, having started on pole, but still on the podium there and living up to his door number. The Spaniard making sure that Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing's Tobias Olsen, could not get close enough to steal away that spot on the podium. Linus Donovan, he crept up the order, and the Arctic Sim Sports by Drop DK driver in the end making it to 5th. Head of the Italian from 07 Racing of Alex Keon, who did a brilliant drive to 6th place there, albeit a very lonely one in that finish where he started. We then had in 7th Sebastian Bach, the Danishman from Arctic Sim Sport by Drop DK, rounding off a run to 7th place ahead of Elias Fanoli for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing, and Diogo Almeida running home in 9th place there, the Portuguese driver coming on strong too late in the day to take a top 7. However, he did start in 17th, so he won't be upset about a 9th place finish. Leandro Lanzendorf in the end finishing in 10th, the Brazilian driver there putting on a great showing. He was ahead of best of the rest driver there of Davidas Loriones, the SRB Motorsport driver in the end, bringing on home 11th, albeit it was under a lot of pressure in the late stages from Oscar Berntsen, who was only able to manage 12th. The Ice Cold Racing, powered by Max Sim Racing driver, in the end, finishing ahead of Aaron Jones and Matt Webb. And I can tell you one thing, they may not have been the best drivers out there today, but top stars or top grades there for both Aaron Jones and Matt Webb. They put on some of the finest racing I have seen in this Porsche Cup car so far, and long may it continue. Conor Murray finished in 15th in the end, the Scotsman ahead of Mitchell Velker, with the Austrian driver fending off the charges of Salvatore Lahm. And then we did see behind the North Sim Racing driver Hunter Lawrence, Yannick van der Zande for Maximus Esports, and Liam McNeely, who somehow, someway survived in that number 5 car to come home in 20th. Outside the top 20, we did have Lazar Szabo and Kasper Tunstedt, who was your last lead lap finisher. And we had 2 retirements in this race, unfortunately, due to an incident. It was Thomas Engels from Germany for GT-Unit.de and Antti Corsaro in the end. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it the distance. So 24 starters, 22 finishers, and a brilliant race to kick off our Porsche Cup racing for this season. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, as the sun almost sets here in Miami and we get ready to wrap up, it's time for us to get a word about our title sponsor, none other than CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that was only week 1. Next week, we head to an old favourite, an old haunt, if you will, of the Porsche Cup Series. It's none other than everybody's favourite Belgian circuit of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And we invite you to come join us on the grid if you think you can make it into a top split, or come join us and tune in live as we bring you all the racing action from the 21:45 GMT or UTC top split race on Saturday, the 27th of December 2025. The story will continue then, but until then, we have been the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, firstly, allow me to wish you all a Merry Christmas, as Christmas will be between now and our next broadcast, and I hope whether you are spending it by yourself, with family or friends, you're able to have a smile on your face all the way through the day and have a fantastic Christmas, and we will see you next Saturday. But until then, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.